All the years combined, they melt into a dream. A broken angel sings from a guitar. In the end, there's just a song comes crying up the night through all the broken dreams and vanished years.
It was 31 years ago. So I was at the Moonshadow Tavern on the Ithaca Commons, where I spent an embarrassing amount of my early 20s. The Moonshadow was then owned by a former radio reporter, and it was the journalists' hangout. People from the Ithaca Journal, from the radio stations, from the NPR correspondent, and from the cable news, Channel 7, used to go there practically every night. And I was in there one night with the Journal people, and Bryan was there too. And I can't remember who introduced us, must have been somebody else from the Ithaca Times. And we started arguing about movies. And I don't know what it says about each of us, but we both had hated E.T. Now, I had seen E.T. at the age of 12, apparently very cynical 12-year-old. And I found it so boring and so treacly that I was probably only 12-year-old in America praying for his heart light to go out. And Bryan, who was a bit older than me, he hated it too when he saw it in the theaters. And we really bonded over loving the fact that we both hated the movie, I guess, because it was the first time that any other human being had agreed that E.T. was a terrible, treacly movie and that Steven Spielberg should be embarrassed and ashamed of himself. And I can't remember what movie we disagreed about, but we also had a really good time disagreeing about it. And that was kind of that. And then the next thing I knew, he was contacting me saying, do you want to do a TV show together? The next thing we knew, every Monday night, live on TV, I was Siskel, he was Ebert, let me make that very clear. And we just had an absolute blast for 10 years.
Good evening and welcome to the premiere episode of Take Two, the movie review program for Tompkins County. I have a new haircut, and guess what? We've got 5 movies to review tonight on Take Two.
Hi, I'm Beth Saunier. Bryan and I are still two opinionated Ithacans who like to see movies almost as much as we like to argue about them afterwards.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Take Two. Tonight's show is called Guilty Pleasures, movies we're embarrassed to admit that we like. I'm Bryan VanCampen.
Hi, I'm Beth Saunier. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Take Two, filmed on location at Fall Creek Pictures in the little movie theater that I like to call the living room.
And our next film on this special Valentine's edition of Take Two is Cameron Crowe's Say Anything. Hey, wait a minute. If you guys know so much about women, what are you doing hanging around at 7-Eleven at 3 in the morning? And they go, by choice, man, you know. It's a great scene.
It is a very
one of many great scenes in that movie.
Okay, and our next movie on this special Valentine's Day romance edition of Take Two is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Moonstruck from 1987. John Patrick Shanley, this is his best work.
It's a great portrait of a family.
Yep.
A great, I don't want to stereotype them, but a great New York family.
After we're done taping, we're going to trash Bryan's father's house. Shh, don't tell him.
No, we're not.
Our first movie tonight here on Take Two is Quill.
At a time when there's really not much out there of any substance.
Yes, that's right.
All right, we're going to move on to quite a different movie altogether.
Good evening and welcome to Take Two, the movie review show for people who now more than ever really love indoor air conditioning. I'm Bryan VanCampen, film critic for News Center 7 and the Ithaca Times.
And I'm Beth Saunier, film critic for the Ithaca Journal, and I'm freezing. I'm Beth Saunier, film critic for the Ithaca Journal and author of the Alex Bernier Mysteries.
And I'm Bryan VanCampen, film critic for News Center 7 and the Ithaca Times. And we've got a power-packed slate for you tonight, folks. We've got killer videotapes, hot French action, and a beastly double bill on video that'll grow hair on your palms, if you're a guy like me.
Palms?
Well, yeah, sure. It's an old wives' tale.
I got that. Okay, well, that's it for this edition of Take Two for our mascots. Shakespeare the Wonder Dog, who's over there, and Mr. Austin, Mr. Jane Austen, in fact. And that's Bryan.
That's Beth.
Good night.
Thank you. Been away a while. Too long I've been alone, so I packed my bags and came back. Somewhere to be home. Went up to your house and stood out in the street, gazing at your window, smiling in the heat. Heard music playing as I danced up to your door, and suddenly it hit me that I'd been there before. Things haven't changed that much around here. Sing that song. Sing that song once more. Living in my mind, locked up all alone. I heard that music playing, pulling me back home. I've always been running, not knowing what to do. It's only been lately I realize it's you. But music playing as I danced up to your door, and suddenly it hit me that I've been here before. Things haven't changed that much around here. So sing that song. Sing that song from home so that everyone can hear. Sing that song from home.
Let's talk for a minute about an American lunchtime tradition, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This venerable little taste treat has been part of American suburbia since before the Mickey Mouse Club and before Miracle Whip on white bread. But are you ready to make a sandwich yourself? It is our hope that after seeing these few simple lessons, you'll be able to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you can be proud of.
This is the Federal Peanut Butter Research Institute at Cornell University. And this is the acting director of the institute,
My dad.
We do a lot of important research here, much more important than you might think.
Let's take a look at the elements involved in the basic construction of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Peanut butter is essential, so get the best. Leave that generic stuff to the amateurs. You'll be glad you did. Don't use whole fruit. One so-called novelty is the peanut butter and jelly conveniently mixed in one aerosol can. This stuff is positively revolting and has no application in serious sandwich making. Never spread the peanut butter on a slice with jelly already on it. It's just too much trouble. Congratulations! You have completed phase 1 and now have a potentially fine sandwich in the making. Prepare for phase 2, joining the 2 slices. But wait! Don't join the slices this way. If you do, you're not ready for such sophisticated food. Unless, of course, you like an eating challenge.
Puppets, yeah. Well, he was starting to make puppets, and I think I believe he had made them when he was a kid. And I remember going to visit with him, and he gave me one. It's George the sheep, and it's basically the same design as his main puppet, which was Sheldon the sheep. The difference being Sheldon had blue hair and George has green.
Sheldon the sheep, Sheldon the sheep. Maybe his production values are cheap, but he tries like hell and he really doesn't smell, 'cause he's Sheldon, Sheldon the sheep. Sheldon, yeah.
He didn't operate Sheldon the sheep. He basically, it was like an alternate personality. It was like watching somebody with, in a benevolent way, a split personality almost. He just wasn't Bryan when he was Sheldon the sheep.
Listen, boss, you know I roll with you no matter what happens. But I was thinking, aren't you worried about quality control?
George, you took the words right out of my mouth. I am concerned about quality control. So I thought it would be a good idea to conduct a few random spot check interviews just to make sure that all the new Sheldons will pass muster with the GP. So go on out there and I'll start calling them in for a little chat, okay?
Sure, boss.
Good evening and welcome to Sheldon the Sheep Talks to the Stars. I'm Sheldon the Sheep. You know, every once in a blue moon, a celebrity tell-all book the size of a paperweight is actually written by someone who's worked as a paperweight. I'm thrilled to be here with my good friend, Peter Bob Monolith. How have you been, Peter?
Oh, you know, keeping busy.
Have you been working out?
Well, I try to keep my shape. You know how it is.
I understand you're on a book tour.
That's right. The Obsidian tablet version sold really well, so the publisher is doing a mass market edition.
Paperback?
What's that? No, we're going to engrave the book onto granite kitchen countertops.
Oh, for the home market.
That's right. The book is called Touched by Apes, A Monolith's Journey. So I thought I'd bring you a treat today.
Oh, I can't wait.
I know how much you like Margot Kidder.
After Yvette Mimieux, she's probably my favorite actress.
So I'm going to read a little bit about her from my book.
Oh, boy, this is great!
He was just really a funny guy. He had a great laugh. He was a great laugher. And he had a sense of humor about himself, self-deprecating humor, and about where he was. And even though he may not have been happy about it all the time, my life is definitely better that he was in it.
The year was 1970. That's a long time ago. I was 8 and Bryan was 7. Both of our families lived in Bethel Grove, which is a little teeny tiny community 4 miles from the city limits of Ithaca. Brooktondale is kind of on the outside of it, but that's where Bryan lived. So we said, you're a Bethel Grover, come on. So Bethel Grove once a year did this dinner at a banquet house in Bethel Grove, oddly enough. And I don't know what they did there. I was much too young to care. But all the adults were upstairs having steak and whatever, and then all the kids, they'd throw downstairs and give us hamburgers. Anyways, I was down in the basement of this banquet hall with a bunch of other snot-nosed little kids, minding my own business, when this kid comes he's dancing, he's wearing sneakers, but he is kind of tap dancing. He has an ice cream cone, and he comes tap dancing by, and he looks at me and says, "Hey, I can tap dance and eat an ice cream cone at the same time." And it was Bryan, and it was my first meeting. And I instantly knew, of course, we're going to be great friends because he was really weird. Our parents became friends shortly thereafter, possibly because they both knew they had really weird children, and they thought we'd get along well, and we did. So my first play date was at Bryan's house in Brooktondale, where I discovered he had all these puppets. I loved puppets, so we played with his puppets. So we'd put on plays, we'd put on puppet shows. We were both into magic, we put on magic shows. Sometimes we'd do it for a birthday party and we'd get $5. Yeah, we did a lot of that kind of thing together. I saw him do his first stand-up act. Now, how he knew what a stand-up comedian was at that time, I have no idea. I'd never heard of one. I didn't know what a stand-up comedy guy was. Bryan must have been up at that age of 7 or earlier watching Johnny Carson, who had stand-ups. Well, how else would he have known? I don't know. Anyways, he did a stand-up act. I don't remember a lot about it, but he did an impression of John Wayne, and he did a little playlet, a little skit and being John Wayne and getting a lemon meringue pie out of a saddlebag.
Please give it up to be very funny, Bryan VanCampen.
It's my first time at the Starlight Room. I don't mind admitting I'm a little bit nervous. I've been smoking pot and hyperventilating all day and watching Roadrunner cartoons. I feel like I'm about to pass out. So, I think it's really important to find something that you really believe in, that you can hang out to, that has a real value when things get dark and weird and scary. Have you guys seen those Coca-Cola machines that mix all the different flavors of soda together? Holy shit! That is so cool! It's not as good as a hoverboard, but pretty close. Come on. I've been wanting to mix Sprite and root beer since I was 4 years old.
When we start getting older, and I think a lot of us are there, you start looking back at your life and you decide, have I been successful? And I don't think Bryan would have thought that. But he did all the things that he wanted to do. He wanted to be Roger Ebert. He wanted to write and direct plays, which he did. He wanted to write and direct movies, which he did. He wanted to be a stand-up comedian, which he did. The only thing I don't think he did was he wanted to be Spider-Man. And, well, most of us don't get to do that.
Bryan, you couldn't have had a better person to pal around with at that age. Safe voyage.
She used to live on Catherine Street, high upon a hill. Tuesdays and Thursdays we would meet, memories of her still. She said no promises that we couldn't keep, so I played it tough, she never saw me weep, walking home from Catherine Street. She liked it there on Catherine Street, great view of the town. Tuesdays and Thursdays we would meet and watch the sun go down. She said no promises between you and I was cool like a fool, she never saw me cry, walking home from Catherine Street. So hard to admit that you want more from this. So easy not to see the toll it takes, but it did when she left. When she left you there on Catherine Street. Street, I plant alternate routes. Tuesdays and Thursdays I go out of my way, 'cause I just can't take the truth. It takes more time, but it eases my mind not to think that I was the one left behind, walking home from Catherine Street.